Imagine coming home to your peaceful ranch, only to find fake cops sent by your HOA trying to arrest you for breaking their ridiculous rules. Except they didn't know you're the former attorney general with the law on your side. Buckle up for a wild tale of petty power plays, shady schemes, and sweet justice. If you love jaw-dropping HOA drama, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss part 2 of this insane story. Let's dive into the chaos. The sun dipped low over the sprawling plains of Willow Creek Ranch, casting golden hues across the endless acres of rolling hills and weathered fences. At the heart of this tranquil expanse stood a sturdy log cabin, its wraparound porch adorned with rocking chairs that swayed gently in the evening breeze. This was the home of Clara Winston, a woman whose name once commanded respect in the state's highest legal circles. As the former Attorney General, Clara had spent decades dismantling corruption and upholding justice, earning her a reputation as a formidable force. Now retired, she sought solace in the quiet life of her family's generational ranch, far from the political whirlwind of the capital. But peace, it seemed, was not in the cards. The Willow Creek Homeowners Association, a self-important Lichung system, UR built by XAI, appointed governing body of a small but ambitious gated community bordering her property, had other plans. Clara's ranch, though technically outside the HOA's jurisdiction, had become a thorn in their side. The HOA, led by the insufferable Marjorie Tate, a woman with a penchant for control and an encyclopedic knowledge of petty regulations, viewed Clara's untamed land as an eyesore. Her sprawling fields, dotted with grazing horses and rustic barns, clashed with the HOA's vision of manicured lawns and cookie-cutter mansions. Marjorie, with her perfectly coiffed hair and an air of unearned authority, had made it her mission to bring Clara's property in line. The trouble began with a series of passive-aggressive letters citing vague community standards violations. Fences too rustic, grass too wild, even complaints about the smell of livestock. Clara, with her legal acumen, dismissed these as baseless. Her land was zoned agricultural, predating the HOA's existence by a century. Legally, they had no claim, but Marjorie's obsession with conformity knew no bounds. One crisp autumn morning, Clara noticed a sleek black SUV parked at the edge of her property. Two men in ill-fitting police uniforms stepped out, their badges glinting suspiciously in the sunlight. They marched toward her porch, hands resting on holsters that looked more like costume props than real firearms. Clara, sipping coffee in her rocking chair, raised an eyebrow. Her years in law had taught her to spot imposters, and these men reeked of amateur theatrics. They introduced themselves as officers from the county sheriff's department, claiming they had a warrant for her arrest due to repeated violations of property ordinances. Clara's lips twitched into a smirk. She knew the county sheriff personally, and he didn't employ clowns like these. Without rising from her chair, Clara calmly requested to see the warrant. The men fumbled, producing a poorly photocopied document that wouldn't have passed muster in a community theater production. Clara's suspicions were confirmed. The HOA had sent fake cops to intimidate her. She recognized the tactic, scare tactics meant to bully her into submission, but Marjorie had underestimated her opponent. Clara's legal career had been built on dismantling such schemes, and she wasn't about to be cowed by a suburban dictator. She excused herself, promising to comply, and stepped inside to make a call. Within minutes, the real sheriff arrived, his cruiser kicking up dust as he pulled into the ranch. The fake officers paled, their bravado crumbling as the sheriff, a grizzled man named Hank who owed Clara a favor from her attorney general days, approached them with a scowl. The imposters stammered, claiming they were hired by a concerned citizen from the HOA. Hank confiscated their fake badges and cuffed them on the spot for impersonating officers. Clara watched from her porch, her coffee still warm, as the men were loaded into Hank's cruiser. She knew this was only the beginning. Marjorie's ego wouldn't allow her to back down, and Clara's refusal to bend would only fuel her vendetta. As the sun set, Clara began to strategize. She hadn't wanted a fight, but if the HOA wanted a war, she'd give them one they'd never forget. The next move, she decided, would be hers. The following week, Clara's mailbox overflowed with more HOA citations, each more absurd than the last. Unauthorized livestock, unapproved exterior paint, even a complaint about her windmill's excessive creaking. Clara chuckled at the pettiness, But her amusement faded when she noticed a new pattern. Surveyors from the HOA had been spotted near her property line, taking measurements and whispering among themselves. Rumors swirled that the HOA was planning to annex a portion of her land under an obscure eminent domain clause, claiming it was necessary for community improvements. Clara knew better. The HOA's treasurer, a weaselly developer named Greg Parsons, had been eyeing her prime pasture land for a luxury condo project. The citations were a smokescreen, a prelude to a larger scheme. Clara spent her evenings poring over legal documents, her old law books spread across her oak dining table. Her ranch was her legacy, passed down through 4 generations of Winstons, and she'd be damned if she let a pack of suburban vultures carve it up. She discovered a loophole in the HOA's charter. Their authority extended only to properties within their gated community, and any attempt to encroach on external land required county approval. Clara's ranch, as agricultural land, was untouchable without a public interest justification, and luxury condos hardly qualified. Armed with this knowledge, Clara requested a meeting with the county planning board, where she still held considerable sway. The meeting was a spectacle. Marjorie arrived in a tailored blazer, armed with charts and a PowerPoint presentation that painted Clara's ranch as a blight on the community's property values. Her evidence included doctored photos of overgrown weeds and rusted equipment, conveniently ignoring the ranch's pristine condition. Clara, dressed in jeans and a flannel shirt, presented a stark contrast. She laid out her case with surgical precision, citing legal precedents and zoning laws that rendered the HOA's claims null and void. The board, familiar with Clara's reputation, listened intently. Greg Parsons squirmed in his seat, his condo dreams crumbling under the weight of her arguments. The board unanimously rejected the HOA's proposal, but not before Marjorie stormed out, vowing to escalate the matter. Clara returned home, expecting retaliation. She wasn't wrong. Late that night, motion sensor lights flooded her property, revealing a group of shadowy figures tampering with her fence line. They scattered like roaches when Clara fired a warning shot from her shotgun into the air. The next morning, she found survey stakes planted illegally on her land, marked with the HOA's logo. Clara's patience was wearing thin. She contacted a private investigator, an old friend from her attorney general days, to dig into Marjorie and Greg's activities. The investigator uncovered a trail of shady dealings, kickbacks to surveyors, forged documents, and a secret deal with a shady security firm to intimidate residents. Clara realized the fake cops were just the tip of the iceberg. The HOA was playing dirty, and she needed to strike back before they escalated further. As she planned her next move, a storm was brewing, one that would shake Willow Creek to its core. Clara's investigator delivered a bombshell. Marjorie and Greg had been funneling HOA funds into a shell company to finance their condo project, siphoning thousands from community dues. The evidence was ironclad: bank statements, emails, and recorded conversations that implicated the entire HOA board. Clara knew this was her checkmate. She compiled the evidence into a dossier and sent copies to the county prosecutor, the local newspaper, and every resident of Willow Creek. The fallout was immediate. The newspaper ran a front-page exposé branding the HOA as a suburban mafia. Residents flooded the HOA's office with complaints, demanding audits and resignations. Marjorie's pristine reputation unraveled as her neighbors turned on her, her authority reduced to ash. Clara didn't stop there. She filed a civil lawsuit against the HOA for harassment, trespassing, and fraud, representing herself with the same ruthless precision that had made her a legend in the courtroom. The trial was a public spectacle, with Marjorie's flustered defenses no match for Clara's airtight case. The fake cops, now facing their own charges, testified against the HOA in exchange for leniency, exposing Marjorie's direct orders to intimidate Clara. Greg's condo deal collapsed when his investors pulled out, spooked by the scandal. The court ruled in Clara's favor, awarding her substantial damages and a permanent injunction against the HOA's interference with her ranch. As the dust settled, Clara stood on her porch, watching the sunrise over her untouched land. The HOA was in disarray, its board dissolved, and Marjorie had fled town, her empire of petty tyranny toppled. Clara's victory was more than personal. It was a warning to every overreaching HOA that justice still had teeth. Her ranch remained a beacon of freedom, its fences standing tall against the encroaching tide of conformity. The community, humbled by the ordeal, began to rebuild, this time with respect for the land and its history. Clara, ever the guardian, resumed her quiet life, her legacy secure, but she kept her shotgun close just in case. If you loved this wild HOA showdown, smash that like button, subscribe, and share your own crazy neighbor stories in the comments. Stay tuned for more epic drama, and we'll see you in the next one.